The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends, everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast podcast, where two therapist coaches, aka theracoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
So, episode 26 of the Notcast. Self-sabotage. Why do I always fuck it up? 3, like today. Why do I always fuck it up? 3 steps to stop doing that shit and break free.
Whoop, whoop.
There we go. 26. Jeez.
I know.
How did we get here?
I've got no fucking idea.
Clearly not through self-sabotage.
No, clearly not. Clearly not. Although there's been moments.
There have been moments. So you or me first on the question I have is, what does self-sabotage mean to you?
Oh, well, self-sabotage to me is literally my internal self-destruct button is how I kind of saw it when I was looking at it.
I'm intrigued about your button.
You can carry on being intrigued about my button. I might fill you in. Love it. Obviously, I don't know what I was going to say now because, you know.
You said your internal self-destruct button.
Yeah. I think that is the foundation of it for me. It was for me, and I guess an external manifestation of my internal self-hatred, guilt, shame, anger, because my way of dealing with stuff was to internalize it and turn it back on myself. So yeah, for me, it was literally been a massive journey of self-destruction. It's like, how can I fuck this up for myself? Because I'm not deserving. So yeah, that's kind of what self-sabotage means to me. And it's something that I have to keep an eye on. It's not something that just disappeared or it's not there. So it massively resonates with me when people are struggling with it.
When you say you have to still keep an eye on, does it still show up for you as a thing?
Yeah, like this week. This week has been a difficult week. And I think in difficulty, it's when I return to my most destructive and ingrained way of being. So my first port of call is to go internal and sort of go, oh, how did I cause this? And then hit the self-destruct button. So I've had to be really, really mindful that I don't go there.
Right. So, I mean, that to me sounds like self-punishment. Yeah,
pretty much. I think the biggest form of self-sabotage for me has always been self-harm.
Right. Gotcha.
Different ways, different levels. Yeah.
So I kind of went, I kind of had a bit of a different take on it, I think. When I first thought, like, what does self-sabotage mean to me as a thing? Things came up like, I know what I should do, but I don't do it. Procrastination used to be a common one. Falling back into old patterns and knowingly fuck something up I actually want or care about.
Yeah.
So first I was like, self-sabotage. Well, let's start with self. Because when I just Googled self-sabotage, there doesn't seem to be a dictionary type definition for it. I mean, there's lots of stuff on the web, but it seems to be more of a psychology or a pop psychology term. So first I Googled self. Well, that was interesting. Here's what came up. A person's essential being that distinguishes them from others, especially considered as the object of introspection or reflexive action.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was like,
wow.
okay.
That stretched my mind.
down the metaphysical rabbit hole already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I quickly stopped.
Thank the Lord.
Well, briefly anyway, because the next thing I was like, okay, well, let's look at self hyphen, because that was the next bit, like self hyphen, as in like, yeah, self-sabotage. So that's slightly different definition. That's of or directed towards oneself or itself,
Right.
or by one's own efforts or by its own action. So that made sense to me.
Yeah.
But then I looked at sabotage, and this took me on a little bit of a journey. So sabotage means deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct something, especially for political or military advantage. And the etymology for this is actually is from French, from the French of, I think it's either saboteur or saboteur, which means kick with sabots, willfully destroy. I didn't know this. A sabot is apparently a shoe, it's like a clog.
I didn't know that.
No, I've never been much into fashion, so I didn't either. But apparently it goes back to like the 1800s, whereby workers would essentially try and, well, I think they were rebelling against the Industrial Revolution or something like that. And they would either purposefully work slow, or they would try and sabotage the machinery.
Right.
And they would, and supposedly they were known for wearing these sabots, because a saboteur used to just mean somebody who makes sabots, and then it eventually moved.
Okay.
So yeah, that was an interesting. Apparently, there's also this misattribution whereby the French people used to throw their wooden shoes into the machines to break them, but apparently that's not true. But it does sound like a fun story.
It does. Definitely. I like that one best.
So anyway, so self-sabotage for me, what I then thought of, I was like, well, the thing about the saboteur, like a sabotage is seen as a negative thing, right? In the perspective. But when I think about the perspective of the saboteur thinks they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? The saboteur thinks, yeah, that what they're doing is correct. I mean, you think of like Guy Fawkes, for example. Like he thought he was doing the right thing, and all of his conspirators were doing the right thing. Because this is what got me then thinking about what it means to me. Because I was like, well, on the surface of it, I get all those things like procrastination, not doing what I should do, all of that. But then I thought, well, self-sabotage is really just a judgment. I'm judging my behavior as something sabotaging. But is it? From what perspective? Because where I got back to the metaphysics, right? It was like, who is the I that's judging this as self-sabotage?
The I that's hurting themselves?
Is that the same I? Is the I that's judging the same I that's doing the behavior?
Well, for me, it's different now, because this week in particular, I was watching myself in the thinking process before before the thought became a behavior. I was able to see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Go figure that out, folks.
Well, because here's where I then went after that. When I went to the internet and be like, okay, well, let's just search self-sabotage and see what people are saying about it.
Yep.
Here are some of the things that came up. So the first one was hindering your own success. And of course, then I thought, well, success by what measure? How are we defining success? Because here were some examples of that. Overeating on a diet, missing a work deadline, in a great relationship, but you cheat on your partner.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, take the diet one, for example.
Yes.
Like, often diets are really quite restrictive.
Yeah, no, I am definitely not a fan of diets.
Right. Well, and I've gone on some crazy diets before because I thought this is what I need to make myself good enough, and this is make me awesome and wholesome and whatever. But on some level, it's meant that I've often restricted myself from certain things that arguably I want or I need. So when I have that moment where I go, fuck it, and start eating shit, it's like, am I sabotaging my success, or are the rules wrong?
I love it. I love how David has taken us down a spiritual rabbit hole.
See, I don't even see this as spiritual. I see it as perspective. Because even
I love it.
even in the relationship one, it's like, that example in a great relationship, but cheat on my partner. It's like, how many people do you know who are in a great relationship where they themselves would say it's a great relationship, and then they decide to cheat on their partner anyway?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective to hold, because I guess when I looked at my experience of it, and I'm trying to match it up in my head now, and I guess that's the thing. Maybe it maybe it comes from different places. Like mine was heavily based in destroying any opportunity I might have. Like for me, I think it was because my story was, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
So I need to keep proving that to myself.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I wonder in different scenarios, because as you're speaking, part of me is going, I know I've been in situations where it could have looked like self-sabotage, but actually I feel like wisdom kicked in and stopped that thing from kind of happening. So I get the flip side to it. And with the diet and kind of, crazy diets that I know I've been on. Yeah. Because the diets were shit anyway. Like it wasn't good for me. And then it's almost like something's kicked in and gone, no, you can't do this. So I guess I wonder if it's more based in the story that you're telling yourself about it, right? How you're judging it, as you said. Yeah. Or interesting conundrum.
Well, that's kind of my take, because my first point was stop bloody judging yourself.
Like it.
That's my first.
Are we in our points now? Did we just go there?
Well, we can go back if you like and do some more pontifitangenting, if you like.
No, go for it.
But yeah, that was my first point. Stop bloody judging yourself, because hashtag no irony. When I thought about this, I thought, if I'm judging myself as self-sabotaging, I've already decided that what I should be doing is correct and that I know best.
Yeah.
And that I just need to bloody get on with it.
Yeah.
If that's right, then maybe I do need to try harder. And, I do think there probably are times where it's like, maybe this is just a discipline thing, and it's like, okay, I didn't manage to do it today, but let's have another go tomorrow. Let's have another go tomorrow. Let's have another go tomorrow. But how many times do you do that before you go, well, hang on a minute, maybe the plan's wrong. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And I think from my point of view, like when I think I know best, that's what hinders me looking elsewhere, because I feel bad because I'm not meeting my expectations. I'm not doing what I should be doing, but I'm also not looking for other options. It's one of those like, that old saying, if all you've got is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. And it's like I just keep smashing shit and wondering why it keeps breaking. It's like, because not everything's a fucking nail.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Because interesting, because one of mine was, what do I actually want and need?
Right.
And I guess that kind of sits around that space of like, stop judging yourself, right? Because it's like, what if I don't actually want, need, or desire what I'm about to do? What if I'm doing it just because I should? Like, because I know there's been spaces in my life where I've sabotaged myself in those spaces where it's like, actually, I don't want this shit. But like society, my family, like people are telling me I should want it. Like I went to college and my parents wanted me to do chemistry, biology, physics. And I seriously self-sabotaged that shit. It's like, because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue what I really wanted to do with my life for a long time. And I used to go from like college to college, trying different courses, like from psychology to sociology to law to all sorts of shit. And yeah, on the surface of it, I could tell myself that I was self-sabotaging. But ultimately it's because I didn't really know what I wanted. So it's like, I think it's really important to spend some time looking at, what do I actually want? Do I want this thing that I'm sabotaging, or do I not actually really want it? And is that why I'm sabotaging it? So yeah,
Yeah, makes sense. When I wonder sometimes as well whether it's not just that, it's like there might be other variables missing. I might know what I want, but maybe the route that I think that I need to get it, or that I think I should get it through, or that, you know, maybe I think there's only one route to it, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's true. I think. I mean, I can remember loads of times where I would have judged myself for self-sabotaging. One in particular was like all the times where I tried not drinking, where I'd say to myself, right, I'm not going to drink anymore, and then I'd end up going, oh fuck it. Especially when I lived in a flat, I moved into a flat, and I would come home, and it, like, in my head, what I was supposed to do was I was supposed to come home, and then I was supposed to spend some time like practicing songs and maybe writing songs and doing all this adulty stuff. And I'd find myself coming back and going, maybe I'll just have a drink. And then it'd be like, oh, maybe I'll just have another one. And then it was, oh, well, I've had too many drinks to do anything productive. Yeah. Maybe I'll just sit and watch some Netflix for a bit. And then, you know, and that never ended well, really, because I'd often end up 2 a.m., bottle of port down, and then hangover the next day type thing. And then it could easily repeat. And it was easy to judge myself because I knew what I should do. I should just fucking well stop doing it and start. Well, yeah. I knew what I should do, like just come in and start doing the stuff that I said I should do, like writing songs and whatever else, but it never seemed to work out. Well, it's only now on reflection when I look back at it, it's like, well, I was living on my own, so I was quite miserable, and I was in a really difficult relationship, and I didn't like my job either. Like, I was massively deprived of connection and hope, I think, really. And so I'm there in this disconnected, hopeless place, and I'm telling myself I need to do these things that will make it better. And what I can see now is there's clearly this deeper part of me that's like, you need a fucking brain break, mate. Yeah. And was the best way of achieving that to have a drink so that I could, you know, zone out for a few hours? Well, absolutely not. But did I know another way of doing it at the time? I don't think I did.
Yeah, I get that.
I suppose that leads onto my second point, which is inspect the needs, shoulds, and have tos.
Yes.
Are they real? Right. And is the need actually a should? Now, I used to say it, and I still can. I really need to do that. Oh, it was my favorite phrase was, yeah, I really need to get to that. And what I found more and more is it was, you know, there was a deletion in there. It would be like, I really need to get to that because that will give me X, or that will mean I won't then have Y. You know, if I need to do this because then I'll be good enough, because then I'll feel better about myself, because then this other person won't hate me or something, whatever it is. But that's a fear-based thing. Yeah. That's not a real need, as it were, or a real requirement, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get that. Because, yeah, when I'd looked at mine, so much of it, like the first word that came up for me was fear. Like so much of it was just rooted in fear. Fear of always fucking it up, fear of always getting it wrong, fear of what I should do, what I have to do, how I must be, how I ought to be. It was, just a constant kind of loop of fear of not being all of those things that the world required me to be. And a lot of it I didn't want to be. But I didn't know.
No, and I guess for me that's why I come back to my first couple of points, and the way I'm kind of seeing it is because if I'm sure that how I'm seeing it is correct, then well, we can be in the square peg round hole situation and not realize it, and we just keep trying to force that bastard through and being annoyed at ourselves usually for why we can't do it. And it's like, maybe the fit's wrong. Maybe I'm missing something here.
Yeah, maybe. I like that.
That sounded like a maybe, but I've got another perspective, maybe.
That's for me to know.
Do tell.
That's for me to know.
But it's the bloody podcast. That's what we're supposed to do. You can't cop out now.
Well, no, but I can go to my next point.
Fine.
I love that. That was great. Oh, sorry. It's a shame you can't see us because that little move there was awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I guess ask, inquire, be curious. Ask yourself the right questions. Because it really helps. That's what... Because when I was thinking about my journey with self-sabotage, it's not something that because there's been things in my journey which I've pointedly had to sit with that thing as an issue and really, really look at it. Self-sabotage is almost being like the periphery of everything else that I've been through. It's been my way of coping sometimes, but it's also been my way of living the story of I'm really fucked up. And the only way to change that story is to ask myself the right questions at the right time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really, really important. So some of the questions that I kind of ask myself is like, how is this making sense to me? Does this make sense to me? Can I really predict the future? Really? Do I really know what's going to happen in the future? Because one example of that was when I was at uni doing my degree in therapy, it was, I used to sabotage the assignments constantly, just constantly. Yeah. It was like, I can remember once in particular where I kind of phoned up my tutor the day before I had to give in an assignment. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. Don't have enough time now anyway. And so I'm just going to drop out of college. It's just like, wow, one extreme to another. And that was my way of going, well, I'm not going to make it to the end and I'm probably going to fail. I just can't do this. But then I got myself to the point of, I have to give this thing in tomorrow and I haven't done it, which doesn't leave me with many options other than fulfilling my bullshit story. And he gave me the out. He was just like, I don't care if you write the same sentence over and over again. Just give me something and I can give it back to you and you can do it again. So it kind of, in those moments now, they kind of come up quite a lot where it's like, oh, do I maybe just leave this because it's not for me and I'm not good enough? But then I have to ask those questions. It's like, prove that. Who said you're not good enough? Where is that really coming from? What are you actually afraid of? Is this really true?
Well, because when you tell that story, like what I hear when you say about sabotaging yourself, like when I think about the saboteur's perspective, for example, I hear there's this part of you that knows you're going to fail, that knows you're going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And so in a way, it's trying to get in there first. It's trying to save you from that trying and fucking it up. So it's like, well, if I don't do it,
yeah,
at least I'm in control of it. At least I've not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because to me, that made perfect sense then, right? I can look at it now and go, what the fuck? But there, in that moment, I can remember it, like sitting in my car and feeling really disappointed in myself, you know? But there was a little bit of me that had a bit of relief thinking, I get to get out of this now and not fuck it up further down the line, you know? So yeah, because that was my story. I'm not going to finish this. I don't finish stuff and I'm not going to finish this. And I probably wasn't good enough anyway. And I'm not going to get a job in this field. So maybe it's the best thing. So yes, it was my truth in that moment.
Why try and go through all that rigmarole and embarrassment and everything? Might as well fuck it up now.
Yeah. Why humiliate myself like that? But I guess that's the thing. It's in those moments, really and truly, because I really sat with what is different now. Yeah. And the difference now is that I ask myself the right questions at the right time very quickly. And for me, it's at the point where I only need to go, is that really true, Amy? And it will make me snap out of it. So I just think it's really great to have those questions, like write them down and keep them somewhere. And in those moments of doubt, just ask yourself those questions.
Yeah. Makes sense. I like that. I mean, for me, whenever I hear a should or a need or any kind of reactive emotional thing, like I'm always like, where's the fear? What's the fear that's behind that's driving it? And sometimes it's very clear, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes if the story is really strong, if the story or the explanation around the should is really strong, then it's not always clear. But I tend to find it's usually back there hiding somewhere.
Yeah. I feel like the answer, well, I feel like I know the answer is always within. It's always there. It's always there. Yeah.
Oh, I remember a time, you're talking about when you were studying. I remember a time when I was first working and I got given this great opportunity in an office-based job, and it was great. I got on really well. But then I found myself starting to browse the internet at times. And then before you know it, I'm like, fuck, I'm feeling bad because I feel like I'm browsing the internet too much. I mean, it's like you work in an office, everybody browses the internet a little bit because it's there. But I started to feel really bad, being like, oh shit, there's all this work I should be doing and blah, blah, blah. And it felt at the time like it was an addiction, because I felt like I didn't really have a choice over doing it, which was then worse because I felt out of control, felt more guilty. When I reflect on it now, what was really going on was I didn't really have a clear direction. Like I didn't actually feel supported. I mean, I had a great boss, but I didn't feel supported. I was actually afraid, I think, of going to him about certain things when he wasn't around. I was afraid of disappointing him. I would feel uncertain, scared, whatever. And then my mind would be like, how do we get away from this? I know, let's look this thing up. Let's do this. Because it was kind of it was a way out of that. So I think it's easy to judge myself as that I was trying to be self-destructive, but looking back, I don't see it as that now. I see it as I was trying to alleviate the pain. I mean, if I knew what I knew now, and I was the person I was now, I'd have probably handled it differently. I would have probably said to him, look, this work you've given me, I don't understand it. Or also, this stuff's bollocks. I don't see why we're doing it this way. And because it wasn't like that forever, when things started to shift around, I remember when we got a consultant involved for certain projects and I suddenly felt, oh, I've got someone to help me with this and I've now got clear direction. I was on it and I fucking loved it. But I could then still dip back into these periods where it felt like I wasn't doing enough. And then to get away from that, I was, browsing the internet, or somehow what you would say was probably slacking in a way. But again, I find it more and more difficult to see it as self-sabotage rather than trying to meet my needs in unhealthy ways, I guess.
Yeah. That's a nice frame for it. Sorry.
I feel the head pat for that. Thanks.
It's okay.
Well, like, in all honesty, then what's your take?
Well, I think... Well, that really resonated, what you just said. Honestly, that's why I said, yeah, it's a good frame for it. Because that, I guess, is the crux of it. Like, it's been a journey of trying to meet my needs in the only way I've known how to at the time.
Yeah.
Even though those needs have been very destructive. But at the time, that made sense to me. That's what I thought I needed. I needed to punish myself. I needed to stay in a toxic relationship. I needed to, because I guess that's the thing. We don't do things unless they make sense to us. Right. And yeah, I thought that was my needs at the time, because I didn't know anything different. And until I guess that inquiry is done, lots of people don't know, because that's how it is with my clients. They don't know until they know.
Yeah.
Right. They don't know until it's like, actually, these are not my needs, and this is not the way to meet them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really beautiful way of framing it.
So my third point then is, what's the ultimate goal of the goal you keep trying to achieve? Like, what's the goal behind the goal? What do you ultimately want is probably an easier way of putting it. And I suppose what I mean by that is, I guess it ties into the shoulds, whereby I find like we can say, well, what I should be doing is this, or what I want is, and sometimes even I'll say what I want is this, but sometimes I find that that's kind of like, it's a means goal rather than an actual end goal. Yeah. Like, I know I've spoken about it before on previous podcasts, but some of what I was wanting to do when it was coming to like writing songs and learning cover songs, for example, some of that was just because I love music, but some of it was because I wanted to be loved and admired by people.
Oh, I love that.
Well, in a way, I was trying to get connection actually through doing that. But of course, the kind of the oxymoron of that was I was not connecting with people in the real world and trying to lock myself away in a room to learn and write songs so that I could then get up and play them in front of people, hoping that they would connect with me.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of makes sense in a twisted way, but wouldn't it be easier to
It
make the
does.
connections first?
Yeah, kind of might be, simpler.
Yeah, but I mean, back, with the way I felt about myself before and about, the anxiety as a result of that, of all the rejection stuff, that's the way it made sense to me to do it, even though now it seems all a bit long-winded and bonkers. So yeah, I guess in a way it talks to what you're talking about in terms of like, what do you want? But for me, I'm trying to, I want to make sure we push like further. Like I said, like, is that what you really want? What would that give? That's the other question I like actually, is like, what would that give you? Like, if you got that, what would that give you?
Yeah. And another one for all of you, that's one of my favorites, is how do I really want to feel? Because I think that has such a big part to play in it as well. So yeah, just ask yourself loads of questions, like,
Yeah.
just go for it. Have a field day.
Well, cause, see, on the connection thing, I remember there was a particular time where I think it was around the time that I was in that flat. I was with a partner, and again, we didn't have a great relationship. I think we went to some thing in London where there was a lot of people. I think it was Winter Wonderland or something like that. And it was one of the times that I decided to stop drinking, but not realizing it was one of those more restrictive, like trying to stop myself drinking kind of things. And when I got there, it was busy and full of people, which I really struggled with. And then everybody else was having drinks, and I'm like, they're being like, no, I'm not going to have a drink. I'm not going to have a drink.
Yeah.
But then my mood slowly declined as I started to feel more and more insular. And then it got to this point where I suddenly went, fuck it, I'm going to have a mulled wine. And that thing then, that was the fuck it moment where I made that decision.
Yep.
And I think when that happens, I do think it's a permission thing. I think it's where we give ourselves permission to get that thing. But here's the way I'm seeing it, right? I think the negative view on it is when I go, fuck it, it's like, that's when I've lost it. That's where the sabotage kicks in. But I do wonder whether if, at least sometimes, if not always, actually that's where we give ourselves permission to actually get the thing that we need, even if it's through some fucked up sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't advocate that. However, that makes sense to me.
Well, I'll tell you why I say that, because what I then did is I had the mulled wine. Now, what then happened was I felt shit because I'd let myself down. I felt disappointed and it hadn't worked and blah, blah, blah. So I felt naff. But then when I got home after that day, I then decided to go to the drinks cabinet and was like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to drink all of it. Right.
Right.
But then the interesting thing is I don't know whether it was because I then got to that certain level of drunkenness where I was able to let all of that shit go. But at some point, that's when I then started connecting with friends. I started messaging some of my friends. And then I felt better because I felt connected.
No.
Exactly. But I mean, it seems so obvious now, right? But I didn't realize that back then. I started to, because I then felt good, even though I was fucking drunk as fuck. But I suppose the way I look at it now is that gave me permission to get the thing that I was after the only way I knew how. Like nowadays, that seems absolutely bonkers. It's like, why would you need to go through all that to just message some friends and talk to them? But it didn't seem like that to me back then because of all because like I said, because I was in a relationship, I didn't think that I could leave, that I didn't know how to fix. There was all these shoulds and stuckness going on.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And that resonates. I feel like for me, the biggest spaces where my self-destruct kicks in is in relationship with other people, like in connection, because that historically has been the scariest place for me. So it's like, oh, I need to take the connection away before the connection gets too deep and I get too attached, and because it's going to be horrible. It's going to end terribly.
That's chasing safety though, right?
Yeah, I'm keeping myself safe, right? In my head, I'm going, I'm keeping myself safe because that's what I need to do.
But then is that sabotage?
Yes.
You were going to say that anyway, weren't you?
Yes. No, I wasn't going to say that anyway. No, to me. Okay, to me and in my experience and when I've looked at it, yes, it has been sabotage. Yeah. I guess like this episode for me goes on 2 levels. Yeah, there's a kind of top layer level to it. And I see that with a lot of clients. There's those spaces. And then for me, I guess my experience of it has been that I have totally at times destroyed stuff.
Yeah.
Because mostly myself.
Yeah.
Because I was so convinced that I was so fucked up, and that's truly what I deserved in life.
Yeah.
To be in those spaces.
Yeah.
So for me, in those spaces, I completely sabotage myself. Lots and lots of times.
I guess where I'm kind of coming at it from, I think there are 2 levels or 2 perspectives on it. I think from one perspective, that kind of behavior to me can look like self-sabotage because I'm doing something that is harming me, which arguably better off if I didn't do that, right? But I suppose the other perspective I'm taking is that if we don't connect with that part of us that's doing the inverted commas sabotaging, then it's difficult to understand what it's trying to achieve. It's difficult to understand what needs are being unmet, what we really want, and what's getting in the way of that. And and then it's difficult to try and address it differently. And that's why I come back to my first point. If I stop it, this is just self-sabotage and I should just fucking get on with it, then to me, and it can end up looking very black and white. I end up just basically banging my head against the wall, trying with that same method I know should work. And I don't start to again connect with that part that's arguably hurting or scared or whatever. That's the way I kind of see it.
And that's why my third point is, where is the love?
Of course, there's always some love.
Because it's all about the love. Yeah, building that relationship.
Yeah.
Like, because that speaks to that, right? It's like I need to understand myself. Like, I didn't understand any of this shit, honestly, in the way that I treated myself and those places of sabotage, and that I even had needs that were unmet. I didn't get any of that. So all of that has changed as I started loving myself.
Yeah.
Because in the space of having a really amazing relationship with myself, then it's kind of like, is that really a loving, kind, compassionate thing to do, Amy? To yourself, for yourself, against yourself? And it's kind of like, no, it's not. No, it's not. So I guess there was a space in which I wanted nothing more than to destroy my beingness. And that was kind of like a space of rejection and having no connection to myself. But in that space of connection and building that relationship that is based in like love and grounding and understanding and actually being okay with the things that I want and need and desire, rather than kind of going, no, that's not okay, because that's not what you should want. It's changed the face of all of that, because it's provided a container for my healing and being able to have those self-inquiries and approaching myself in a completely different way, rather than telling myself off and like being really harsh and repeating the behaviors that other people did that got me into that space in the first place. And it's enabled self-inquiry, and it's enabled being present and being able to see it. So I can see it now, and it's like, do I like treating myself like that? Fuck no.
Yeah. I think that's the thing though, right? Like it's kind of what I was talking to earlier when I was saying about the, maybe missing a piece of the puzzle and not seeing the whole picture type thing. Because, I know we talked about this before. I never really understood the concept of self-love, self-compassion, looking after myself.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to me to try and achieve whatever needs I thought I had without having to have that self-kindness. I mean, one way that I used to, inverted commas, self-sabotage was if I had a shitty day at work, I would, and this is after I quit drinking, so I'd already decided drink wasn't healthy for me. But I would go to the shops and buy loads of like cheese and bread, and I would binge eat cheese and bread. That was my thing. And some of it was because it was like a comfort food because I liked it, but I would gorge on it to the point I would end up feeling shit.
Yeah.
And then be like, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I come back to that was because I felt shit. And it was actually, I think, a way of me trying to feel better, to numb that. I don't think it was a way of me trying to destroy myself and fuck it up. I think it was a way of me trying to feel better. Inevitably, it didn't work, but I didn't have that. I didn't have another way of doing it. Like it didn't even seem like an option to sit with the feeling and not do anything about it, or I don't know, even to do something else less destructive. It seemed like it was that or nothing, and I didn't want to choose nothing.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I guess that's the thing, right? When we're sitting here and we're having this conversation now, I guess it's only because we can look back and join the dots now.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's from that space that everything looks very, very different. And so I guess there's no getting out of the fact that you have to do the work on this one. Is the bottom line.
Well, I guess I come back to my first point. The whole reason I'm not a fan of the self-sabotage thing, really, because I do think the label sounds like a judgment, is because it can push us in the opposite direction to the self-love you're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially if I've got, and generally people who've got a lot of shoulds are very self-judgmental. They're not very kind to themselves. So if I'm, by trying to attain that and follow that story or the belief in those shoulds, I often find that we're running completely the opposite way to that compassion and kindness, which is actually going to help us understand things better and get out of the patterns that we want to break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not a fan of labels at all. But I guess for the purposes of the Upcast, we have to run with them. But yeah. Please don't attach the label to yourself, because that doesn't. I'm really not a big fan of just slapping labels on myself. I've had so many of them that it's like. I guess for me, it's more about an awareness raising, right? It's more about an understanding. The label is a label, and we speak to it because that's what we do. But I don't like sitting there and going. And then I was self-sabotaging, and then it was obviously the self-hatred, and I guess there are ways to, in words, acknowledge maybe a process. But I guess the end thing is, that's it, right? This is all about you and learning about yourself and learning about what works and what doesn't work and how you can change that so that it's more effective. And I guess, the central thing for me is you're not stuck in that space because you can do something different.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, even if someone comes to me with anxiety, for example, I really see anxiety as a process rather than a problem. Now, I still use the label anxiety because we need something to kind of to talk around, but I think it's the deeper meaning to it and the relationship to the word, what it means, all that stuff. So I get it. It's like it's that difficult situation of we don't want to use labels because we compartmentalize things, but without labels, then we can't talk about anything. So
it's just a concept that's floating over there somewhere.
Yeah, and again, I think it's about changing the relationship with the labels, or inspecting the label and be like, what's behind that? What do we mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, don't see yourself as a label, right? So it's
I am a self-sabotager and therefore doomed forever.
Yeah, I think that's why I like the relationship. It's like, in a relationship with myself, there's going to be lots of things that I learn about myself. Some that work and some that don't work. And it's in that relationship that I know that I can bring love and understanding to that, and I can create a whole different experience. Yeah.
Love that. So, any closing thoughts or further thoughts on self-sabotage and ways to break free and stop doing that shit to yourself?
I'm going to be a real shit and say there's one more point I want to share.
Of course you are. Go on then, hit us. Hit me.
Okay. Experiment. Like, experiment and start small. Like, just accept a compliment with a thank you. Like, ask for help once from somebody you trust. Do something small imperfectly. Like, yeah, encourage yourself and do one thing that you taking care of yourself. Because if you do that, you've given yourself a different perspective. It doesn't have to be a massive thing. It doesn't have to be all out all of the time. It could just be one really small thing so you can get the proof that actually you can do it differently. And maybe you have a whole different experience if you do.
So, my closing thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Self-sabotage is a judgment, or it can be. It can be a 2D assessment that assumes you know best. And what if you don't? What else could be there? What might the bigger picture be?
Yeah, I love that. So my closing thoughts are this. As a person who has been there, know that you are not alone. Be kind, be gentle with yourself. Beautiful soul. Start where you are and take it step by step, one day at a time. Know that you are worthy, you are deserving, you are allowed to have good things happen to you. Stop trying to prove otherwise. What if it doesn't have to be like this? What if it does go right? Allow yourself to open to the possibility and open to the love. So what would allow you to give yourself the permission right now?
Very poetic.
Thanks.
So, 26 episodes.
26.
Done and dusted.
Whoop.
You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit, with your TheraCoach hosts,
David Bird.
and Amy Dave.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's ami.dave.11.